So today I'm going to show you how to make the car wash example in GeoGebra using the program. When you pull it up, this is the window that just appears, and you got your file and edit and all that stuff. So we know that we want a 60 by 60 square. So before I do anything, let me put the toolbar up on top so you guys can see it. Now you don't have to know how to do this part. The toolbar is normally down here, but to make it easier to see, if you want to, you can go to View and then Options, the little gear, and then Input bar right now is shown at the bottom, and if I click this button, it'll go to the top. So input bar, show, top, moves it to the top. Let me exit out. Now I have the bar right here. So now, if I want a 60 by 60 square, we can think of it like coordinates because we have our coordinate axis here. And so I want to plot a point at 0, 0. So that just generates a point right here. And all I did was type it in up here. Then I'm going to make another point at 60, 0. And you can't see that point because we're not zoomed out enough. So if you click up here and you hit zoom out, and you just hit a bunch of times, it'll actually keep zooming out. Oh, look, and there we are, 60. So whenever you're on a tool and you want to go back to just moving the mouse around and clicking around, always go back to this clicker. Or you can hit escape on the keyboard and it'll take you all the way back to here. So now I've got this, a point at 0, 0 and a point at 60, 0. Now what I want to do is I want to move this around, and you just click on the move tool and then click on the screen and move. And there's shortcuts, but I'm not going to go into those today. So now I can see kind of a 60 by 60. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a square. Now there's a couple ways to do this. You can either make perpendicular lines and construct it, or GeoGebra actually has a really cool tool called regular polygon. So as we all know, that means all the sides are going to be the same. So if I go from A to B, it's going to ask how many vertices, and since I want a square, I pick 4. So I click 4, makes a square. GeoGebra always operates in the counterclockwise direction. So I start here to here, so we're going to generate up and over, counterclockwise. So now I've got this. I don't really want this poly 1 to show, so I click on this, and I click on Graphics little drop-down window, and I go to this little toolbar, and I'm going to hit Hidden. Okay, and it's not working for some reason. There we go. So what I did is I went here and clicked Show Label, clicked it on and off. Okay, so now I've got a 60 by 60 square. Sorry about that. I've got a 60 by 60 square. And we can introduce the lengths of it and everything by clicking on the sides, but I'm not going to go into that right now. So now what I want to do is I want to create something called a slider. And this is going to allow me to change the values of a point by moving the slider instead of numerically entering each value differently. So if I click on slider and I click anywhere on the screen, it'll bring up this. And you can do one for a number, an angle, or an integer. And in this case, I'm going to do integer because I want it just to increment by whole numbers. If you wanted it by non-whole numbers, you can do this, or you can just do this and click 1 for a whole number. But I'm going to click integer. And my minimum, I'm going to put at 0 because I want my slider to go from basically this point to this point. And it's going to my slider is going to represent the x value. So if it goes from 0 to 60, and remember in the problem, it increments by every 6 inches. So my increments are going to be 6. Okay? So I hit apply. And now if you look, you can move this. And it's not really doing anything right now because there's nothing that goes with the slider. So I go to my input bar and I type in the point n, 0. And you can't quite see it now, but it's right here. What this did is, look, it made a point that's going to move every 6. But I don't want my point at the bottom, I want it at the top because our hooks are at the top. So if I go back into this point that I called E right here and double click it, it'll give me the properties. So I'm going to redefine it as n, 60. And what this did is it put it up here, so the y value is always 60. So now I've got it moving on our hooks. So now what we want to do is make a square, right? So we need something along here. And as this moves over, as this point E moves over, we want this point to move accordingly. So when E is at 0, we want our other point to be where C is. And when E is all the way at 60, we want our other point to be where B is. So to do that, you're going to type in the coordinate points 60, because you always want to be on the vertical line CB, comma 60 minus n. And what this is going to do is it's going to, when n is 0, so n is right here, it's going to generate the point right here. And if we want, we can make those points look like a different color. Maybe they'll show up better. To do that, you just click on the point, go right here, and we'll make them blue. Everyone likes blue? Or no, we already used blue. Let's make them red. So now, what it did is, look, now I have a red point. You can see it a little better. Do the same to this one. So now you can see that a little better. And now when they move, you can kind of see the red points. So now, again, I'm going to use the regular polygon tool, remembering that it goes counterclockwise. I'm going to show you what happens if it doesn't. We start here and we go here, 4 vertices. See how it made a square that's going out? Because we went here and went here, and it went counterclockwise. So if we just go to Edit, Undo, we just do it again, but we're going to do it in the right direction now, counterclockwise. Should be here to here. See? It puts it in it. And if you notice, when you move the slider, the figure always remains square. So now what we're going to do is it's a little hard to see, so we're going to change some of the colors. So if you go into Poly 2, click it right here, and click here, we can make it our blue shape that we wanted. But in this case, I used red dots, so I'm going to make it red. Make it dark red. So you see how it fills up dark red? It's a little easier to see. Also, I'm going to change my Poly 1 to maybe like a window. So like this, and get rid of it, so it's opaque. So it looks like you can kind of see through glass. So now as you move, you can see how it works. Now the only thing that we have to exclude, and you can do this with your students, is that will it work at n equals 0, and will it work at n equals 60? And no, because the problem says that it can't fill the entire window. So now what we're going to do, there's a couple ways to find the area. GeoGebra will actually just, if you just type in area, and scroll down to where it says polygon and click enter, you'll be able to type in the poly you want. So I want poly 2. So right here, just type poly 2, hit enter. Now it generated this number I right here. I'm going to rename it so it's a little easier to know. And I'm going to call that area of poster. So it just typed in area because it was too long. If I go to rename, maybe I can do it with like this. Yeah, so I didn't like that. So I'm just going to call it area. Okay, so it's the area. Now what we want to do is we want to plot a point that represents the area. So I'm going to do a point that's n. So how many hooks we are over, with corresponding with the area. And you can just literally type in area, and that's what we called it, and hit OK. So this generates the point 6, 2,952. And as you move n, you can see the area changing. So now what I did is you go to View, and right here, right now we're in Graphics 1. But if you want to be in Graphics 2, you just click it, and it opens up a new window right here. You slide over, you can see. The only problem now is that we can't see our slider. So I put it back. Now I can see my slider. If I go ahead and left click on the slider, you see how it says Fix Object? You just turn that off, and now you can just drag the slider freely. I'm also going to zoom out, so that way maybe I can, there we go, make this a little smaller, which will allow me to make the other window larger. So now I can do this. Now in this one, what we want to do is we want to get this point I that's in this window to this window. So if we click on I, or double click on I, and go to Object Properties, you can go to Advanced, and then click it out of Graphics 1 and put it into Graphics 2 and hit enter. So now what it did is it put it in here, but we can't see it. So we have to zoom out a bunch to find it, because we know it's going to be like 31,800 right now. So we have to go a bunch. So we're only at 300. There's a faster way to do this. You can just scroll on your mouse, and it'll work. It works on a Mac at least. I know for PCs, if you hit Control- or Control+, it'll zoom in and out. So now here's my point. And watch is when we move the slider, watch what happens to the point. See? But it kind of doesn't look like a parabola. It kind of just looks like it's moving around. We need to zoom out a little more. All right, so you can kind of see the parabola, but it's still hard to see. So what you want to do is change the windows. So we're good with our y-axis, but our x-axis needs to be different. So if we go to View, our Options, and then Advanced, and you click right here where it says Preferences Graphics 2. Now for my X-Men, I really only need 0, but I do -20, just so I have a little bit of room. And then here, I only needed this to go up to 60, so I'm going to do 80. For my minimum, I don't even need negative numbers, so I'm just going to hit 0, or I'll hit -20. And then for my maximum, we know the area for this max is out at 3,600, so I'm going to put my maximum at 4,000. So go a little bit above each one. So now, if I move this, you can see the parabola much more clearly. But we still don't have that kind of shape that we want because it's not tracing it out. So if I go to this point, and I go back to Object Properties, and I go to Basic, I hit Show Trace, exit out, now watch what happens when I move the slider. See? Traces it out. And from here you can already see the parabola shape. So that's kind of nice. Now, another way you can do this, that if you want to manipulate the problem like I did, and I wanted to make the slider go every 1, you just go back to Object Properties, and then you increment it by 1 this time, and enter. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make your slider just go by 1. So you can see how the parabola, you can see it plots more points. And yet the minimum that we have is still right here at n equals 30, which is the same as before, as we expected. And if you want to get fancier and you want the text to come in here and say what the area is, you can just click the text box, click right here, and then just type in the area of the inner box is, put a semicolon, and to get the value, all you do is go and click on this guy, and it'll automatically put it in here. So you hit OK, and it appears right here. This might be a little too small, so we go into here, Object Properties, and we go to Text, and we change it to maybe like medium. And if you notice that when we move our slider, the area will change. And that's how you make this example.